Hello and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box. And today I want to talk about a video that's going viral, I suppose, for all the wrong reasons. And this is a video of Journey playing at the famous Rock in Rio festival. And it's this performance was noted because lead singer Arnel Pineda had troubles. His voice was shot, he couldn't sing. It was bad, and he admitted it was bad. In a post that he put on social media, he talked about of all the thousand things you do right, people only focus on the one thing you do wrong. That's very true. That's the nature of the parasitic attributes in music media, or at least a certain genre of professional legacy mainstream musical media. He offered, apparently sincerely, to leave the band if people on his social media pages told him to. But most people, I was happy to see, are very supportive of him. And I just want to look at it from a musical point of view. I'm sure that you've seen the video by now. If not, you can just type in Journey Rock in Rio 2024 and you'll see the clips. And so I want to talk about, from a musical point of view, what happened. I think there are several things, but to me, the most apparent was what you're seeing. Just how do I do this? See, oh, I've done it. The in-ear monitor. Now, if you're going to sing live and if you're going to sing in tune, you need to be able to hear the other instrumentalists around you. And when you're playing with a loud rock band in a huge arena, you obviously need a good monitor mix. Now, traditionally in the, late from the late 60s up to, sort of the early 2000s, the only way to do this was to have what they called wedges, little speakers at the front or on the side of the stage or wherever on the stage the musicians need them, and they would pump the music into the faces of the musician, and there would be a special monitor mix distinct from the front of house mix. So the front of house is what goes out to the audience, but the monitor mix is what the musicians themselves want to hear. And as we got further into the 70s, every guy on stage had his own monitor mix. So if the drummer wanted more vocals, if the vocalist wanted more bass, they could have that. Now, well, comparatively recent, early 2000s, I think maybe some of this was coming around in the 90s. You had the advent of in-ear monitors, where instead of having the wedge, the speaker on the stage, you would have it literally in your ear. A lot of people think that it causes less hearing loss, and it also freed the singer up to move around on stage more without having to always be with a monitor. Not just the singer, but any musician who's mobile. So anyone who isn't a drummer or an organist, let's say. So in order to sing, you need that mix to be clear enough so that you can hear who to be in tune with. And what I noticed in this video of Arnell at the concert is that he was constantly holding his ear, trying to, which is, that's the universal signal of I can't hear anything. And either because there was a technological problem or something, maybe the stage setup just it wasn't happening. I think maybe he couldn't hear the rest of the guys in the band, which makes it really difficult to sing. Now, the other thing, and a lot of people have been saying this too, is maybe his voice was just worn out, which happens because when you're playing an instrument that doesn't involve the voice, a lot of it is just stamina. It's a bit like training to do any physical activity, whether as a fighter or a football or anything else. And so long as you train and don't get yourself injured, you can keep going. With vocal, it's a bit different because the vocal cords have their limits. And if you strain them either through improper use, overexertion, or both, it can be trouble. I mean, Ian Gillan blew his voice out in the early 80s and sort of retrained himself to sing in a somewhat different vocal style. And Arnell, I mean, they've been on tour almost non-stop for I think maybe a year or maybe over a year. They've been on tour for a while. They're pretty relentless. And yes, Jonathan Cain and Neil Sean have been suing each other all the while. But the lawyers haven't given up. I think one of the lawsuits settled, but again, it's very hard on the voice. So it could well just be that. And the older you get, I mean, he's not an old man, but he's not a young man either. He's middle-aged. He's in his 50s now. Um, and that's things sort of happen. So I think that people that are being really hard on him are really taking things over the top because all singers have bad nights. I have some bootleg footage of Sinatra having a bad night, which admittedly, Sinatra on a bad night is still better than most people on a good night, but it happens. The reason that Van Halen did their famous outdoor concert in Dallas in 1991 is because when they did their main show in Dallas, Sammy's voice was shot. And he said, "Look, I'm sorry, guys, we're going to come back to Dallas and make it up to you with a free show." And they did. And that show is now available for all of us to see because it was videoed professionally. And the list could go on. Some voices age better than others. Van Morrison's voice is exactly the same as it was in the mid 60s. Go figure. Other people's voices are very, very different. Some for a difference, a difference for a difference, and some because the voices decline. Now, it's with all of that in mind that I definitely think, unless it was just a question of the in-ear monitors, which it could well be, maybe they need to take a break, postpone the tour, drink some warm cognac. That's always good for the voice. Well, in for some people, but there are other more sophisticated remedies, but maybe not as fun ones. But the point is, there's no indication that this is symptomatic of anything bigger. Singers can have bad nights for those reasons I mentioned. So I think that, well, it's sort of what they call a teachable moment to see that, yes, even a very well-known person in a famous band can have a bad night. So don't kick yourself too hard when it happens to you. I think people also should go a bit easy on him. Um, Again, maybe there's a businessman, a manager, a lawyer behind all of this saying, oh, the band maybe wanted to take a break, wanted to refund the people and not perform. But yeah, you've got to go on there, like how Elvis, Colonel Parker worked Elvis allegedly to death. So it could be something like that too. So don't necessarily cast your stones at Arnel. And for those who don't know, obviously Steve Perry is the lead singer that made Journey what it is, but Arnel, once Perry left the band, they'd gone through a couple of other singers, and they were thinking about what to do next, where they saw this relatively young kid, well, I guess he was, well, youngish, in the Philippines performing in rock tribute bands. And he was really good. Wasn't making a lot, but he was really, really good. And Journey contacted him. He thought it was a joke that his friends were playing a prank on him, but it was really Journey. They were inviting him to come and audition to join the actual band. And so again, it's one of the most fascinating of all of these kinds of rags to riches stories in rock. He seems like a really nice guy. I think there's other things going on. I'm sure he'll be back sooner rather than later and sounding good as you can on a show, on a tour that goes on and on and on. Hey, that's a Journey lyric. So, like, subscribe, and let me know what you think. We'll see you next time. Take care.